Welcome to Homegirl Knows Best. This show is about the people, the stories, and all the messy chaos in between. I'm your host, Jen Cameron. Let's get into it.
And then you literally shook our world at Forum and you stood up and you got on the stage and you told your story. And it was unlike anything I've ever experienced because the vulnerability that you had in that moment of sharing losing your father and finding him deceased and being homeless and living in a car with your siblings and your mom and going to school and figuring it out. And then, I mean, you talked about going to Oxford and getting your MBA, Rainy. But as you stood up, it was very clear and evident in that moment that you were going to empower everybody that was there, that was present, to get up and live their truth. And you shared this story. Was that the first time you had ever publicly shared that story?
It was the first time I'd ever said it out loud, even to myself. It was kind of this, and thank you for that. That was very sweet, and how you mentioned that. I was all set to give the keynote speech that the team had prepared for me about overcoming adversity, because it's been a hard couple of years, in the industry, and they put together, the 8 things you need to do to sort of, and I was looking at it the night before, and I was sitting with my assistant, and I was like, my heart is just really compelled to share my story, because our theme of the Forum event, and our Forum event is our annual conference that we get together. I always like to make sure that we have a little bit of like the mind, body, and soul piece of it. So it's not just like a real estate, like educational thing. Like it really is meant to inspire people. And so our theme was around vulnerability. And we really said like the way you grow is to put yourself out there. And I said like what a hypocrite I'd be if I didn't get up on stage and share a little bit about how I've overcome adversity. And I was terrified to do it. I don't mind speaking in public, but I never speak on anything personal. I am a very private person. I get up on stage and I speak about international brand strategy, like everything that I know up here. And I got on stage. I made a couple notes the night before, kind of chronologically, sort of like how my life has unfolded. And I just got on stage and I said, before I share with you like the 8 steps to overcoming adversity, like let me just share with you that like I'm not asking you to do anything that like I'm not willing to do myself or that I haven't done. And I think it was one of the first times that I really realized for myself that, to your point, the things, all the messy chaos that you go through in your life, I'm not who I am because I got through it, but because it happened to me, it helped to shape who I am, and that I don't need to be afraid of it, and I also don't need to be ashamed of it. That like I am not the things that I experienced in terms of the chaos and the challenges, but I am shaped by the challenges that allowed me to lift myself out of that. And in many ways, I feel like children who go through adverse times either get sucked into it or they do the opposite of it. And I was just one of the lucky ones. And I just feel so blessed inside of it. And it was one of those opportunities where I just kind of like poured out of me. Like I'd never like ever said it before. And here I am on stage in front of like 1,000 people, like telling them the most intimate parts of my life about my parents, having drug and alcohol problems, my father passing away, my sisters and I and our struggles and the things that we went through and the chaos that I lived inside of, and how I used that to stay focused, to build like this inner strength inside of myself that really served me for like my entire life. And it was cathartic in so many ways to get to kind of share that and say it out loud, because it was just something that was like kind of bundled up inside of me. But the thing that was like, I think the most special of all of it was walking off of the stage just being like, oh my gosh, okay, so like I'm the leader, and I just told all of my entire tribe that like I was raised by like alcoholics and drug addicts, and that like I was homeless, and like did I just like lose their confidence? Like what do they think about me now? And like it hadn't occurred to me as I was going on to stage, and then the outpour, Jen, of love. People were hugging me. We were sobbing. They're like, I've been through this and I've been through that, and oh my gosh, I actually got to learn who you were as a person, and now I loved you as a leader, but now like now I like want to be your friend. And like it was just it was a milestone moment in my life. And it was like one of those things of like you just have that whisper in the back of your mind of like, well, what if I just was brave enough to just go do it, and I did it. And I don't think that there's anything I don't think there's a better choice I've ever made in my entire life than sharing that story, because of the number of people that I feel like I positively impacted, which wasn't like, I had no idea that that was going to be the outcome. I just felt like, you know what, I felt compelled to get it out there, to put it out there. And the moment that I did, I felt like a weight was lifted off of me, and I felt like an ocean had just parted, and I was that much closer to everyone who I cared so much about, that I worked so hard for. And it really solidified the fact that like the agency really is a family for me. And I know that that's kind of like cliche for people to say, but it's true. I mean, I have such deep connections with the people that I work with and work for, and being vulnerable and sharing that really allowed me to feel 100% accepted. Not like, oh, well, they accept me because of my brilliant ideas, but like they know all the dirty laundry and they still think that I'm great. And then like that just makes you feel like that much more comfortable to come in and just be yourself every day, and know that like who you are is enough, and who you are is great, and who you are is amazing. And to feel that appreciation that I get to feel for that, it was the most rewarding thing. I know people thank me for doing it, but I was like, thank you for like receiving it, because that was the greatest gift anyone could have given me.
Did you feel free?
So free.
Okay, I've never shared this with you. I came in to the closing night, and, you know, we have the stage with the DJ and everybody. Well, usually Mo gets everybody dancing.
Always. That's his job.
You had your beautiful red dress. You're up there on the stage with the DJ, and you were dancing. And I looked at you, and I was like, oh my gosh, I get so emotional at this part. But I was like, she is so free in this moment. And I had so much joy for you watching that. And I know you're sober, and dancing when you're sober is not the same as when you have a bunch of drinks. And I was like, this woman, you were glowing, Rainy. And I love that for you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. Okay.
It was special.
Outside of running this massive global group of stallions here, you're also a mom. Motherhood, right?
My favorite thing. Yeah.
People talk about balance. I go, that's just a joke. It's not about balance. And I don't think any woman who goes in and really wants to excel at her career, and you know you're making sacrifices, right? And also staying home with kids is really, really hard. I tried it once. I lost my mind and I went back to work. But you have these two young, beautiful girls, and they're watching you. And how do you juggle, I'm not going to use the word balance, like motherhood and leadership, and how does that work for you?
Clear priorities. The girls are number one. They just are. And I think that's one of the reasons I love Mauricio so much, is because he has 4 daughters, and he gets that. And that was like really like part of our conversations when we started. I was like, the very first meeting I was on, we were in the middle of COVID, and I have a 6-month-old, right? So I had just quit my job in the middle of COVID to take over a company remotely while I had a 6-month-old baby at home in the middle of COVID, when I couldn't really have any help, right? So she needed to nurse just when I was getting on to do the global welcome. And so they have this on video where like I'm literally nursing her, and I'm giving my speech and talking and doing everything. You see this little hand pop up. Like she's just kind of waving, just to let everyone know that she exists, because she's such the princess. Like Addison Isabella, she's really a queen. Her sister Sophie is the princess, and she's the queen, even though she's the little one. But it was, I mean, it's just indicative of how it goes. I mean, to your point, I strive for balance in life, in that, like every New Year's I sit down and I go like, my physical body, my mental body, my spiritual body, my emotional body, like how am I, like what are my goals inside of all of these things, knowing that in every moment I'm out of balance because I'm never doing all of those things at any one time. But if throughout the course of my week, my month, my year, I'm able to tap into the pieces that I need to tap into, that I'm living a balanced life, right? And so there's weeks where, we're getting ready for a leadership retreat coming up. Like I'm getting speeches done and PowerPoints ready, trying to make sure we've got our brand strategy and our service experience and all of these things like buttoned up. I'm way more focused on making sure those things happen. There's other times where it's like, okay, the girls have the Nutcracker rehearsals and shows, and I have to be there to, like my 4-year-old wanted to do. And I was like, I'm not going to let her backstage with strangers helping her get dressed and undressed into things. I'm going to have to be the dance mom and be back there doing that at the same time. And they love it. They love that. Like, and I'm one of the few, believe it or not, working moms at their school. And so it's also like, for them, it's like, well, everyone else's mom is there. And then so it's like, I make it a priority to make sure like I get the calendar, school just started. I give it to Amanda, my assistant. I'm like, put this in and build everything else around it. It's like, those are the non-negotiables.
That's funny because when I told you that story about with Jonas and Jordan, it was important to me that I, was there in the morning and whatnot. And I said, I'm going to pick them up from school every day. And when I would pick them up, it was clear and evident that I was a working mom. I was dressed professionally.
Yes.
I didn't look like the other moms. I made sure that I always hung out on the playground a little extra long because I didn't want to alienate the other moms, and they were actually the best tribe ever. They always supported me in my career, but I was intentional about that. But how does being a mom kind of shape or influence the type of leader that you want to be?
I've learned so much about my leadership through being a mom. I feel like in terms of, you were even saying before, like how do you make those tough decisions? And children need boundaries. Children do really well understanding the consequences to actions. I think that cultivating amazing human beings is very similar to cultivating amazing and highly effective teams. And so I'll be doing something with the kids and I'll be like, oh, that's what, like, yes, that's what I need to do with the tech team, or like, that's what it's like, it'll just click for me because like I'll be in the experience with them, and it reminds me because it's just like that human interaction piece of it, and it's super rewarding, even though it's the least appreciated in the moment type thing. I mean, my girls love me and adore me, and it's all about mom all the time. And I feel so special. Like the kids will come home from school, like, what do you do? We want to cuddle with mom. That's like all they want to do. We want to cuddle with you. We want time with you. And I try to take advantage of those moments and be present and intentional. Like when I'm working. When I'm with the kids, I'm with the kids. My team knows that. Like I put the phone down at 5 o'clock. We're making dinner together. We're doing the things. And then it's like back online, check the email, do the things once the kids have been put to bed. But the time with the family is the time with the family. We don't bring the phone to the dinner table. What's your high? What's your low? How was your day? What's going on? And the other day I was working on something, and my oldest, Sophia, looked at me. She's like, Mom, put your phone down. She's like, you're not, like, this is our time. You're in it. And I never do it. And I'm like, I'm never on my phone.
Ooh, I love
she was like, and you're not supposed to be.
Yeah.
She gave me her little sass back. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm not supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And being okay to like say, yeah, you're right, to your kid. Like you don't always like, I feel like as parents, sometimes we feel like, oh, we have to know everything. And it's like, I think showing your children that you're a human being is really important to be like, you know what? Mom messed up. I put myself on timeout all the time. I'll just be like, Mom has to breathe. I'm putting myself on timeout for a second. You guys are driving me a little bit mad. Let me regroup. And so it's like, okay, Mom's back, because I have to show them how to control their emotions. Like it's not okay just to spew out all the time. And I feel like I practice that at work all the time. I've got all of these things happening and things going, and I'm like, if I can be patient with the girls when they're screaming at me and this is all happening, I can handle this situation, right?
My gosh.
So
I love them
similar.
calling you out because I have Jordan, who's 27, my daughter, and then Tawny, my office manager, who's my future daughter-in-law, who's 29. And when Tawny started working for me, Jordan was kind of coming into her own too. And I was getting a lot of, sass back from Jordan because she was becoming this independent person. And I met Tawny, and she was more shy. She wasn't she definitely had a lot of bad bosses before me. So she was kind of used to navigating that environment. She wasn't used to being empowered.
Yes.
And now she's become such a strong leader that if I misstep, she will call me out and I'll look at her and I'll think, oh, she's right. I'm almost like, oh my gosh. Then I'm like, well done, Jen. Job well done. I love that. What do you feel that you want your girls to learn from watching you as a leader?
I want them to learn that they can be and do anything that they want. I want them to feel that empowerment. I want them to, to whatever that is for them. It was actually, it's super cute. They were doing camp this summer, and my youngest came down dressed as Wonder Woman because it was dress as your favorite superhero, and my oldest came down with a red agency shirt and a hat on. I said, "What are you?" She says, "I'm the agency president, and you're my superhero." I almost burst into tears. Like,
Okay,
I was just like,
I would have.
"Oh my goodness!" Like, I was like, "Here, you want my Porsche? Like, what do you want? Like, you can have anything." You just got mom's right heartstring there, but it was, they are so proud of me. I like to try to take them every once in a while, like on a business trip or something like that, so they can see it. So when we opened up our San Diego office, I brought Sophia down with me so she could see the office opening and get to be there. And I was on stage talking, and she was just walked right up, and she's just hanging on my arm, listening to me, and I'm just talking away and stuff. And we got back in the airplane. She's like, "Mom, they were all like just listening to you." She was like, "When you talk," she was like, they like pay attention. And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I'm lucky that I have such great people. She was like, "I'm going to be like that someday." And then I had the opportunity to take the girls with us to the Oxford reunion for my 15 years just a couple of years ago. And Addison looked at me. She's like, "Mommy, can I go to school here?" And I was like, "If you work hard, you absolutely can go to school here." She was like, "Okay, that's what I want to do. I want to go to school here, but only if I can live with you forever. Mom, can you come live with me here?" I was like, "Of course. Like, I'll get a flat in London and I'll live with you while you go to Oxford." But when I get to share with them and celebrate those things, and I see them like light up around it and be like, "Well, I want to do that too," or whatever that ends up being for them, because it doesn't have to be my path, but that they see that and that they like that lights them up, like that lights me up.
Oh my gosh. So, people will say, "Jen, how can you run a brokerage? How can you sell real estate?" And then, I'm a mom and a wife and all those things too. And I'm like, because I can do anything that I want to, if I want to, right?
If I want to.
And I'm very lucky that I had a mom who was a cheerleader in that way for me too, right?
Yeah.
But with the agency, we're now at this global luxury lifestyle brand. I mean, we are on the map, and it's been really neat for me to watch how far we've come, because I wasn't like Peter and Paige. Like, they're the OGs, right?
Yes.
And look at how far we've grown since then. Those first few offices. When I came in, I felt like I was kind of like the hybrid. I'm still here while we're small enough, 54 offices, right? And then it went poof. And I went, wow, I'm really glad I got to experience that. And then I went through this evolution too, to watch how far we've come, and to know that I put my faith in the right place, right? And I always say, nothing that's really worth something doesn't come without bumps or hard work or pain, right? And then you get, because the joy and that success is so much sweeter. But where do you see us going from here? Like, what's on the horizon in the next 5 years for the agency?
Yeah, I think more greatness. To your point, there's been a lot of growth, but really intentional growth. And I think that there was a lot of fear when we were at the 30, then to the 50, and we keep growing. They're like, "But we're going to lose the magic. We're going to lose the magic." And we really have tried as we grow to be like, I still personally interview and talk to every single new applicant before they brought on, not to make sure that they sell the right price points. Like, are you a culture fit? Are you part of our tribe? Like, this is how we think. This is what we do. This is what's expected of you. If you're entering our community, you have to be a member of the community. And we have those conversations. And so it's not a perfect science, but as we continue to grow, the idea is as you grow with like-minded people and you're adding to something like that you're creating an army that reinforces itself. Like, you're creating your own flywheel inside of it. So the vision for the company really is, when you look at the industry, there's a lot of constraints out there. I mentioned before all the merging, morphing, and disappearing. Most of the independently owned boutique real estate companies have disappeared or are disappearing. The larger box houses are getting bigger, acquisitions, commission compression, and it's hard to make a profit as a brokerage inside of real estate. So the businesses that have figured out how to do that have figured out how to diversify their revenue streams. And most of that is done through traditional ways of what most people call ancillary services. I call them core services, mortgage, title, insurance. They think of other ways to monetize the real estate experience. I have a different vision, and Mauricio is in alignment with it because it's his shared vision as well as elevating the industry, is to really create an ecosystem that provides the best possible experience to the consumer. And I believe that the way to do that is to control the ecosystem, not with the motivation to monetize it, but with the motivation to create the best possible unified experience. So if I'm a home buyer, I fill out like my pre-application for a mortgage or a loan, and that's the last time I have to fill out a piece of paperwork, right? Like that should go into the system, and all of the blockchain, AI technology that we have together today should allow the consumer's information with security and ease to move through the system in the process. And so I really focus on people, product, and pricing. So when it comes to having the right mortgage partner or the right title or escrow, those are the core things that are connected to like the real estate transaction. But above and beyond that, like we're a lifestyle company. Like our brand isn't just about like this transaction. We're gonna help you close the transaction. So, we started the agency Art House. That was our first take something out of the sandbox and like test out and see how it works. We had this amazing, already successful art curator who had been mentored by the best of the best, and talk about a male-dominated industry, a young female who had all of the right connections, was already selling millions of dollars worth of artwork a year. And she said, I've created this entire network and this infrastructure. And I think that the agency brand could elevate what I'm doing. I think that we're aligned with what we're trying to do. I'm trying to disrupt the real estate. You're trying to disrupt the real estate industry. I'm trying to disrupt the art world and make the art more accessible to everyone, because there's this perception that only the uber rich who have inherited wealth should be able to have access to this type of art, and therefore it doesn't matter how much nouveau riche money you have, you shouldn't even be able to view that collection. And so there's this mentality of like, no, like let us revolutionize this together. Like we have a lot of really similar contacts and clients, and so we did that. And the first year we were like so wildly successful of this little beta that we are looking to grow that, and that's just like one example though of like the reach that we have over the next 3 to 5 years and the things that we're doing. So what I want to do is I want to go deeper into the markets that we're already in from a real estate perspective, continue to open in other luxurious marketplaces. I look at all the places that Mauricio travels to, and I'm like, okay, yes, I want to be there, and I want to be there. But all joking aside, it's there's so many beautiful, coveted locations for primary, secondary homes around the world, and we've barely touched the iceberg when it comes to our ability to be there. And what I really want to do is go deeper into our existing markets, expand those to create a living and breathing ecosystem. So like every time we open a new market, it's like, okay, well, that's a feeder market for Seattle and for Denver, and that makes sense for us to open that. We're seeing migration there. It's not just like, oh, what's the like highest price point market, or which one has the prettiest real estate? It's like, no, like I'm creating a truly global, a truly connected global company, and I don't think that's ever actually been done in real estate. And I've worked for all of the big companies who have the maps with the dots, and we will all say we have a global international company, but Paige in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
Like, Czar in Vegas, everyone everywhere because you've karaoke'd with them. You've sold real estate with them. You've been in deep strategic conversations with them, brainstorming sessions. We all get together. We celebrate each other. You guys will travel around the globe to go to other grand openings to celebrate a new office that's opening, to make sure that you're welcoming in that new friend into the marketplace. And then, now my market's just expanded. I'm not just selling in Seattle. Charleston is also a market for me because I can now send referrals back and forth, right? And so when people could really understand that as we're growing, it's strengthening what we're about. It's growing the possibility for people to do more and be better. Then that also creates a larger marketplace for us to develop things like mortgage and title at scale so that we can actually create a company, a real estate company that's fortified and a brand that's known for the highest of excellence inside of that, create an experience because, my true belief is that luxury is not a price point. It is an experience. And the fact that we apply the same level of care to a $500,000 condo as you do to a $5 million estate is just our philosophy. It's not an exception to the rule. It's just that everybody deserves that level of professionalism and creativity and innovation when they come to us as a real estate professional. And I want to apply that to the entire ecosystem by partnering with the best of the best in all of those categories to make the transaction seamless. And then I want to say, okay, well, now you want to design your house and you want to get furniture and artwork and all the other things. And you're interested in buying a house in Turks and Caicos, but you want a vacation there first and you want to fly down in the private jet and then tour around on a private boat. Okay, well, I don't necessarily have to own that, but if I can create an ecosystem where we can, as a concierge, provide those services and say, yeah, let us help to cultivate that experience for you. And then when you're ready to buy your home, you're going to think of us because we're already your trusted advisor. And for me, that's the vision of the agency. When we talk about being a luxury lifestyle company, it is owning luxury real estate first and expanding the confidence that our high net worth clients have in us to allow us to be their trusted advisors in other parts of their lifestyle that are tangential and interconnected to the things that we're doing by partnering with the best operators in those other verticals who understand our non-negotiables in excellence and service experience and everything that we bring to the table so that we're always authentically ourselves, but we're allowing more value to be happened. Because, one of the things that just makes me so sad is that I feel like customer service and customer experience is just dying in our world.
Everywhere.
I just feel like it's an exception for somebody to have manners. Like when you go to a coffee shop and want to get a coffee, and it's like, if someone's not rude to you, you're like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for not being rude to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, our bar is so low that I really want in our culture to raise that bar back up. And I want to do it through real estate and then beyond.
It's in Charleston. I was just there on vacation and I was like, could I be treated like this every day?
That is what we want to take that just across the globe. That's a great example.
Oh my God. When I just asked you what the vision was and you're like, this is what we're creating, I'm experiencing it. I had an agent at a competing firm call me because they needed a referral in Toronto, and I connected them with Peter and Paige, right? Like, we had that connection. Or I walked into a winery and I was wearing my agency hat, and the woman started fanning over me, and the first question she asked.
Do you know Mauricio?
Yeah. And then the second, have you met Kyle, right? And so as I told her, she was like, oh, where did you get your hat? Did you get it in Beverly Hills? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, we're here in Seattle, and this was right after we launched. And she goes, can I have your card? And I was like, yeah. So she emails me. This was the gal working at the winery. And she says, my family has a house in Mexico in this city, and it's kind of a hard place to find someone. And I called Stacy Tilford. I go, do we have an office in Mexico in this area? She goes, Jen, we just launched there last week. I was like, okay, we're launching in so many places. I can't remember them all. But those things are happening. And Arushi Kapoor, who you're talking about, I think I was the first person when I saw that went completely nuts that we have the agency Art House as a service, because I had just worked with this wonderful woman who lives in Miami and worked with her son and his husband to find a home here in Seattle. They bought a gorgeous home, and then I invited her to come to Miami, Art Basel, and I said, we're going to have a VIP there. She goes, no, I live in Miami. I avoid Art Basel. It's like the locals, we're hiding out during that. She goes, but I do need art. I said, let me connect you. And I connected her with Arushi. I think she was one of the first clients. And then Arushi came here and did an event at our Scala penthouse. So I'm the lucky recipient of all these beautiful, brilliant things. What do you think the industry is still missing? Like, how can the agency fill some of those gaps? Because we talked about, it's been a rough few years. We launched into a recession in Seattle. That was
Yes.
hi, I'm here in Seattle. Let me launch into a recession and then go through the NAR lawsuits. But I have my own ideas of kind of what's missing. And I'm a little bit like you with the customer service. But what do you feel the industry is missing? And
I think the industry is missing a focus on the consumer. I think that, and this goes back to being the young female at the table and bringing up ideas like, oh, you're like, Truly and Zillow are not a bad thing when you have data information that goes out there and opens that up, and they're like, but we lose control and we lose the data. And it's like, but what can we think about, like, rather than becoming from this place of scarcity, come from a place of abundance and understand that there's enough out there for everybody. And if we all collaborated with one another rather than working in silos, I think everything that the agency was built on, this idea of collaboration and putting if you get one of us, you get all of us, right? And I think the industry is still so very much focused on, well, that's my sphere, that's my book business, that's my client. And I'm so happy to say, like, at the agency, it's not that way. It's really like, okay, I have this client or I have this need, and I have this problem to solve. What can everyone do? And people are like, oh, I have a resource, I have an answer, let me help you. And it's not because they're getting something for it. Like, it's like, let me pay it forward. I want our entire industry to act that way. I want our entire industry to say, what does the customer actually want and need? And that goes back to this creating an ecosystem that's easy for them, where information is easy to find, where service is at the forefront, where we anticipate their needs before they ever even have them or voice them, where there's choices. Some people are price conscious and they want less service but cheaper price. Some people, their time is the most valuable thing. They should be able to choose along a spectrum what they're getting with transparency. And I feel like there's a lack of embracing things like technology or innovation because people are afraid that they're going to fall away from being in the center of it or lose the relationship. And I feel like technology is, if best used, always enhancing the human experience. I never think that technology should be used to displace the human experience or humans. And so if a real estate agent is providing value and has knowledge, information, that doesn't matter if I can look up on ChatGPT what's the best school district. If when I'm working with you, Jen, that you're like, you know what? You have an 8-year-old, I'm going to set up an appointment with the principal at the local school, and I'm going to bring you by at 11 o'clock because that's when the 3rd grade class is out on the playground. And I'm going to walk you through and introduce you to them because they're friends of mine, and they don't normally do this, but they're going to do it for you. And then you're going to get to see what it's like for your child to experience 3rd grade at the school. That's different than like, okay, ChatGPT says that great school gives it an 8 out of 10 rating.
Yeah. And you know what? The funny thing about that, as a parent now, it can change year to year, right? So,
always.
So you can't just say, oh, that's the greatest school.
You have to be in the know. And I feel like real estate agents who are hyper local, like, that's part of the value they bring is they know, like, oh, actually they were the best school for 10 years, but that actually meant that the government changed their funding. So now this other school has the government's funding. So actually a lot of the teachers have moved from there to there. Like, that's not something you're going to find on ChatGPT.
No, and that's the local expert that understands those nuances. But there's been a lot of conversations about the consumer lately under the guise where somebody's talking about the consumer, but they have their own agenda.
Yes.
When you talk about the experience, that's very different. And the way I look at technology in our industry, I'm not afraid of Zillow. I'm not afraid. They've been here. Yeah. Zillow was born here in Seattle. This is where Zillow, the Redfin, the EXP, all these people that are like, oh, the next thing's going to, wipe you out or, get rid of the agents or whatever. I'm like, no, you know what? We all make each other better. I pulled up someone's house the other day and Zillow was off $800,000 on the valuation. And I use that to my advantage because I did a market analysis. I said, this is what your house is worth. And they were like, how does that happen? I said, let me explain this to you. And so how do we keep innovating while staying true to our culture that makes us unique?
When you have a culture that is based on innovation, you're almost it's like a detriment to yourself if you're not innovating, right? Because that is who we are. So I think that when really in that side of that question, what we're really asking ourselves is like, how do we innovate and grow sustainably and responsibly? And I think that it is about understanding what it means to be a timeless brand. I was actually just talking to the marketing team about this because we're getting ready to do a brand refresh, and they're like, well, we can't touch this, we can't touch that, it's sacred. And I was like, the only thing that's sacred are our core values and who we are and what we believe in. Everything else is a representation of that, and things change, time changes. Like the fonts that they were using to advertise the Ford, the first Ford, T, Model T car is not what Ford is using today to advertise themselves. If you look at any great brand here in Seattle, take a look at the Starbucks logo and how that's changed over the time, the mermaid and the brown and how that's evolved. Any brand that's going to evolve, any company that's going to evolve has to stay relevant, but still stay connected to your core values, because there's the difference between evolving and following the shiny thing, right? And so what I mean by that is like, okay, it's really trendy right now to be this and do this, and we're going to go and that's what we're going to be. And then all of a sudden it's this and then it's that. And if you're not focused on who you are, what you're doing, and why you're doing what it is. So for us, being innovative, being collaborative, being creative, the idea that, more of the same is never acceptable for us. It means that we have to be evolving, that we have to be changing, and that means that we have to be willing to let go of things, appreciate them, but also understand the things that we want to hold on to, because change for the sake of change is, I think, also detrimental to a brand, because then things are so fleeting that people aren't able to grasp onto things. And so our rules, for instance, have been with us since inception, and those haven't changed because those are like very core to us. Our founding principles haven't changed. We used to say things like, we're not your parents' agency. We were an aspirational brand, 12 years ago, and we were new to the scene, and we were trying to make a statement. Most luxury brands don't pick a primary color, right? But we were saying we're going to be different. We're not going to do what all other luxury brands do. We're going to be intentional about doing something different and show you that you can have a red brand that's luxury. We're going to do those things with intention. Now I think we've proven ourselves, and we're no longer out there having to show everyone that we can be, and now we can settle back into this is what we are, and now we're going to show you what we can do. We're going to show you what being what we are can now do. And I think it's going to free us up to do more of the same, but in an elevated way. And I think that is how we innovate while staying true to our roots, is like we stay true to we're revolutionizing the way that real estate is done, but we're doing so in an evolved way. Like we're no longer like the teenager who's trying to like revolt. Like we're like, we've made it. Like we're on the global stage. We're here. We're a mature company. And now we're going to harness that power and show you how to really revolutionize on a much larger scale.
Ooh, okay, I'm excited. Literally. There's a brand I've watched, and they make that mistake where I can tell exactly who they are. I know their tradition. I would know what their values are. But they watch what somebody else is doing, and then they try to mimic that, and it always comes across awkward. But then I've been with other brands that for 80 years had the same logo and tried to do a refresh, and it still looked like it was 80 years ago. So it's the kind of updating that you're talking about, to me, I'm excited about. I love it. I embrace it. So I'm ready to get on board with that. But we've talked about leadership. We've talked about motherhood. We've talked about so many things. But I want to do this little fun thing. It's called Rainy and Filtered. Okay. I'm just going to give you, I've got 5 questions, and I'm going to rapid fire them, and then you'll tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Are you game?
I'm good. Let's do it.
First word that comes to mind when you hear the agency.
Special.
What's harder, a boardroom full of executives or getting 2 kids ready for school?
Kids.
Favorite guilty pleasure TV show?
Oh gosh, I don't watch anything that's animated anymore. Yeah, I just watched Sirens while I was on my trip to New York, and I binge watched that on the airplane. That was awesome.
Like the whole thing.
Yeah, I just like watched it straight through. So yeah,
Oh my gosh. Early bird or night owl?
early bird.
Okay. If you weren't in real estate, you would be.
Advertising?
Okay. I love that. Rainy, I appreciate you so much. You're such a special person, and I hope that people that are listening really took away not just the inspiration, but really a little bit more about you and the agency's success and the women driving us forward. And I thank you for getting on a plane and coming here for 24 hours. And I hope that we send you home well and that you had a great time.
I have already had a great time just being here with you, and you're such an inspiration, Jen, and I really, really appreciate the honor of being here and being included, and just fun being with you and talking, and I'm excited to work with you to take Seattle to new heights, the company to new heights, but I'm actually just excited to spend the next 24 hours with you.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to go to dinner. We're going to have some fun tomorrow, and then we get to reconvene in Mexico City.
I love it.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you've made it this far, thanks for listening, and thanks to my guest. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See ya!